The Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winter Haven, and even Wauchula. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California. Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby! Boom, boom, boom! Yeah! Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell. Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be a tough team to stop, I think, at this point.
He said, you know what ring is my favorite one? My favorite ring is the next one. Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why'd you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. And the Buccaneer Nation will celebrate. And I want to hear cannons.
We do.
I want to hear cannons.
For sure.
And I think we are going to hear cannons. If I got to do the boom, boom, boom myself. Bucs win. Bucs win. Bucs win the Super Bowl 55. Tom Brady engineers the offense. The Buccaneers score late in the first half, early in the second half. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. How about the Buccaneers, huh?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby!
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 13 of the 2021 NFL season is in the books, and they stand with a 9-3 record. They're able to travel to Atlanta, complete the sweep against a division opponent as they beat the Falcons 30-17. We're going to break down everything you need to know from that game and more on a brand new episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, live on YouTube today for episode 229. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. Pretty impressive victory for the Bucs, 30-17. Once again, the final score. And let's just dive right into things. It was pretty evident what the Buccaneers wanted to do. The game plan was clear from the very first drive of the game. It was 13 straight passing attempts for Tom Brady to open things up today. And it was capped off with an incredible one-handed snag for a touchdown from running back Leonard Fournette. As this offense got a pretty good start on the road, a couple of bumps along the way, which of course we'll talk about. The defense, I thought, in particular, the pass rush, stepped up in a major way today. A couple of things still need to be addressed. We'll talk about all of that here soon. But Evan, what did you think of the game today, man? Hard to be upset with a 9-3 record, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the final score was a little bit closer than it actually was. I really felt like the Bucs did a good job of really of subjugating them and really making sure that they got the win. And I predicted that it would be 31-24 was my predicted score. But I noted how week 2, I believe it was 48-25 was the final score, but it was closer than that, right? It wasn't like a complete blowout. Everybody knew it. The 2 pick sixes by Mike Edwards at the end, they really put it like deceiving a little bit. I said that this game was going to be more of the opposite, kind of. The Bucs were going to win, and the Bucs were going to control the game pretty much, but the final score would actually be closer than it was. And that was the story, I think. I think the final score was definitely closer than this game actually was, partly due to the stupidity of the Bucs, in the final seconds of the half, the defense being shaky early on, the offense, Ryan Suckup missing an extra point. So all that goes into, I do think the Bucs really played much better than the Falcons. They pretty much dominated them, but the final score won't exactly show that. But nonetheless, 9-3 is 9-3, and they're on the brink of clinching the NFC South. They can clinch it next weekend. Not very likely, because what needs to happen is the Bucs need to beat the Bills, which could happen. The Falcons need to beat the Panthers, which could happen, but the Jets need to beat the Saints. And I know the Saints have been struggling, but man, it's the Jets. I don't know. So, we'll see. And if all those things happen, the Bucs will clinch the NFC South. But hopefully they're able to clinch it one of these next 2 weeks. I believe all they need is really 2 more wins. So they're in a great shape to do that.
Yeah, and as we dive into this win against the Falcons, it's important to mention, like you said, it seemed like the undoing of this team at times today was just the mistakes that they made. Bucs beating Bucs. It's stuff that we have talked about before. We're not going to spend too long talking about it today because it's just something that, I guess you just have to adapt to how it comes up every single week. That critical pick 6 by Tom Brady at the 3-yard line, the very end of that first half. It was, not a great situation to be in. It made it a much closer ball game than it needed to be. The Falcons had already deferred. They were getting the ball to start that second half, so you had to count on your defense a little bit more. But when they weren't forcing things, which is exactly what they did on that pick 6, I think it's important to mention that, while the offense did start hot, probably the best they have looked on the road this season as far as starting, right? Those first 2 drives, they were able to put up some points. So you had to feel good about the way things were going there. Some of the connections were there early. There was a little bit of miscommunication throughout the day. But I mean, aside from that, it is an Atlanta Falcons team where you can recover from mistakes like that. But this offense had a hot start, really started to slow down. And then I think maybe when it came to that pick 6, they were just overconfident, deep in their own end zone, less than a minute to go in the half. I know the offense had wanted to get some more points, try and get some momentum before the half, but you got 1 yard on a screen pass to Chris Godwin that didn't go anywhere. I mean, they were lucky to get 1 yard, if I remember correctly, because it looked like it almost got blown up. And then you go to Leonard Fournette, just a bad route, kind of a bad throw by Brady, and the defensive lineman made a pretty athletic play to end up in the end zone with 7 points for Atlanta. But again, that's just, it's one of those things that you look back on and you got to learn from it, I guess. It's a pick 6 like that isn't going to come back to bite them next week. A win is a win, and the Buccaneers are 9-3. But let's talk about this offensive game plan outside of the pick 6. Like I said to start the show, it was pretty clear what the game plan was today, especially for TB12 under center. His afternoon looked like this: 38 for 51. Tom Brady threw the ball 51 times today, 368 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then, of course, that 1 interception that we talked about. And, another guy I think who had one of the best days of his career, would have helped if he got in the end zone. But you talk about production, man. Chris Godwin, 15 receptions, 143 yards, led the team in receiving today, and I believe set a franchise record for receptions in a game. Just a great day for Brady, aside from the pick, and really this offense, he was able to find a lot of guys today.
Yeah, Taser is in the chat trying to get me all riled up, I guess. He said, Brady has thrown one interception at least in the last 5 games. Troubling.
Yeah,
okay,
clearly.
Well, he threw 4 touchdowns today, so if you're troubled...
I mean, no. People have been talking about it, dude. You've seen it. We've talked about it. Maybe it is time for the Bucs to...
He's done.
Maybe it's time for the Bucs to worry about the quarterback position, huh? Do we need to worry about Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he has... Whatever. I mean... It's 5 games, so you dating back to the Saints game, I guess. The one interception in the Saints game, Godwin's being held. The Washington game, Jalen Darden has it, then all of a sudden doesn't. Mike Evans drops the ball, goes right into the Giants defender's hands. So, I mean, it's just whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I don't know. I'm just not even going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it today because they won. Tom Brady threw 4 touchdowns. He was fantastic. Okay. He was spectacular. If you're going to say otherwise, you clearly didn't watch the game or you're just biased against him for some reason. And he's been fine. He was fine against the Colts last week. He was good against the Giants the week before that. His only bad game this season was against Washington. Even in the Saints, he had moments of being spectacular. So just stop.
I think it's also important to mention, especially after watching the game today, this offense was kind of taking what they were given. A lot of teams have figured out how to respect the deep ball from Tampa Bay. They play a lot of 2 high safeties throughout the entire game, forced Tampa Bay to look at some more of that short passing game, which we saw in that first drive. We've seen that start to develop for this team over the past few weeks, but that's how teams are playing the Bucs now. Like you're not all the time going to see Tom Brady rear back for that 30, 40-yard completion. He had a couple of tries today. He missed Mike Evans, who was wide open. I think it was on that 3rd down, the 3rd and 4. And if I remember, it was after they had gotten a turnover. I think it was in the 3rd quarter, if you know what I'm talking about. But
it was after the fumble,
right? But I mean, just the production that they were able to put together, even though Atlanta had a pretty good game plan on pass defense, like.
Did they?
Yeah. Well,
really
I guess not.
Tom Brady threw 368 yards. So did they really have a great game plan?
Yeah, I guess not. But they were, definitely trying to secure the top of their defense. Another guy on the offense who had an incredible day, vintage Gronk. 4 receptions, 58 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Big 87 showed that he is still that dude, playing healthy as ever with 2 touchdowns. And after this game, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski are now 2nd all-time in the history of the league for touchdowns between a quarterback and a tight end duo, behind Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. So Gronk really, we talk about Brady having a record-breaking year. Gronk is having just as many himself. He's 100-yard game away from breaking Tony Gonzalez's streak for, I guess, tight end 100-yard games at that position. And then there's another record that he's creeping up on. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Rob Gronkowski, when he's healthy, man, he is still very much that dude. And we saw that today. He ends up in the end zone twice.
Yeah, it was kind of a quieter day from him until the touchdowns. I mean, he had 2 catches and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then he got a few there late, but he had a drop. He had one. It looked like a little bit of a miscommunication between him and Brady. So overall, like, it wasn't like the sharpest game by him, but like finding the end zone twice, it's still very, very nice. And the second one was a good audible by Brady. Gronk said in his press conference that that's an audible by Brady, and he saw that what defense they were going to be in and knew that if they got the fade ball, he'd have a one-on-one shot. So really good catch by him. And yeah, I mean, he's all the way healthy now. I don't really think there's much of a question about that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not the first time that, we've had to talk about that level of communication between Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Obviously, it's no coincidence that you have to know each other pretty well to end up 2nd all time in quarterback and tight end touchdown receptions. But we saw it week 1 when they were playing the Cowboys. There was a time where Tom had, checked Rob into a different route, had basically seen something in the offense, and it was that the linebacker was going to bite on something. So Rob just ran down the middle of the field after faking a block, and he was wide open for the touchdown. That's just the mental telepathy, I think, is a great way to put it. The level of communication that these guys have, how well they know each other. And I think Gronk even said it himself. Tom usually knows what he's going to do before he knows what he's going to do on some plays. And, we saw him do some pretty cool things on heads-up plays today. On offense as well, we talk about some other guys who stepped up. Mike Evans, 7 receptions, 1 yard shy of 100 yards, but that's all right. 99 yards for big number 13. And then Lenny, while he wasn't spectacular on the ground this week, he opened things up with a pretty nice drive, catching the ball. 7 receptions at 48 yards, and then that one receiving touchdown I had talked about. Can we talk about that catch for a minute? I mean, if anybody hasn't seen it, go back and check the replay. Just a little one-handed snag for Lenny. It looked like one of those catches you'd see at training camp, but it was a great catch.
Yeah, it was a really good throw. As
yeah.
well, to where lofting it right over the linebacker's hand there. So I really like the design, and the design on the first 2 touchdowns was essentially the same. It just happened to be Leonard Fournette and Cameron Brate. Like I said, the design on those 2 touchdowns was very similar, but it worked. And like you said, Fournette, as long as he's able to do his job, man, like as long as he's able to do his job and not screw up, like just catch the football. You don't have to be this Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara type receiver out there, but just do your job, catch the football, and maybe make a guy miss, run over a guy, who knows. As long as he's doing his job, you're not going to see a guy like Gio Bernard out there as much. And I know that people have talked about him a lot, but that's why, because Fournette has been good at doing it. Like, he's been good. It's a fact. So if he continues to be this way and be the security blanket and the check down option for this offense, then so be it.
Yeah. I think a really important part of this offense getting going as early as they did.
Real quick, sorry to cut you off. I just want to get out in front of this. Dub said, I wanted to see Rojo in the 4th, but I know BA is still worried about Rojo making a mistake. He was hurt. He was questionable with an illness. I'm not sure if he came back into the game after he left, but yeah, he was not 100%. So that might have been why you didn't see him. Just want to get out in front of that.
Curious to see what happens with him, because I read that he left the game with an illness, and I assume he's just throwing up, blowing chunks all over the sideline. They got to bring him back and check on him. But, hopefully he should be good to go for next week. But talking about some other reasons that this offense was so successful this week, and I think had as good of a start as they did, was the play action. I mean, it's hard to not want to use the play action the way that they did today after, Leonard Fournette putting up 4 touchdowns last week. So obviously teams are going to respect the run a little bit more this week, and we saw that happen with Atlanta. That first drive, 13 passes in a row, seemed like half of them, if not more than half, were play action, and they generally work, right? A lot of people have been banging down Byron Leftwich's door this year to get him to call more play action, and I think it was responsible for the hot start from the offense today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said about sort of doing what works, right? The play action works. The checkdowns work. The Bucs were able to take some deep shots today. They took more deep shots today than they have in the past few weeks, because Atlanta was doing a little bit more single high safety. And you know why? Because the Bucs were checking it down so efficiently. So when you do that, it's going to open up your deep ball. Like that's what it's going to do. So as long as they're able to maintain the patience there, right, of not hitting the 50-yard pass, but the 5-yard pass on second down to make it a 3rd and 3 instead of the 25-yard pass, that works. Like, it's okay. And as long as they can stay patient there, the defenses are going to start giving them other looks to where they can hit those deep shots. Is that the defenses are going to be keying in on those checkdowns, and they're going to be doing a lot more single high and stuff. So just stay patient, and the deep shots will come. And they did come a little bit today, right? Tom Brady hit Mike Evans on a deep ball. The first Gronkowski touchdown was like a seam route down the middle. They hit Godwin on a nice little 25-yard gain. And so it works, and just be patient with it. You got to have patience, and right now they are doing that.
Yeah. Also, shout out to our guy Cameron Brate, the Harvard grad, ending up in the end zone. Nice to see a touchdown from 84 every now and again. Let's take a look at the other side of the football, because while we want to talk about the offense, I know there were some things that probably could have been cleaned up. The defense, obviously, also working with what they were given. Some injuries in the secondary today. Jamel Dean left the game being evaluated for a concussion, if I remember. So let's
Yeah,
go ahead.
he did not return. And Sean Murphy Bunting got hurt, but that was on the last drive, so we don't really have an update. But Jamal Dean did not return.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and talk about this defense today, because coming into this game was the first game in, since week 1, first game all season that they had all 3 of their starting corners ready to go. And they had that for a whole, first half. And then, of course, the injuries started to happen. But I thought the defense stepped up in a major way this week, in particular the pass rush. The way they were able to get after Matt Ryan today is exactly what we have been asking for and expecting a couple of times this year. I mean, Matt Ryan was simply uncomfortable. 5 sacks on the day, and a lot of credit to the big guys up front. Vita Vea got himself 2 sacks, and Ndamukong Suh got 2 sacks. Cam Gill got 2 sacks, his second of the season. Maybe another guy adding into that pass rush rotation. But I thought they did a pretty good job putting pressure on the quarterback today. There were a couple of times where Atlanta was driving, but guys were able to force some plays. The first drive of the third quarter, Pierre Desir, his second turnover in 2 weeks, he's able to force the fumble, and while the Bucs
on his first play in, mind you,
his first play in after Jamel Dean goes out, the Bucs offense wasn't able to do very much with it. But when it's a game like this and you're on defense where you're already spread thin, you love to see guys step up and make plays, and I think that's what this defense was able to do this week to definitely keep Atlanta out of this, because Atlanta would have had 10 points if it wasn't for the Brady pick 6.
Right. Yeah, this game really wouldn't have been very close. I mean, like I said, it really wasn't. But yeah, the interior of Atlanta's offensive line has got dominated. I mean, Sue, Vea, Will Golston, whoever it was. I mean, even Nacho had a few nice reps. Whoever it was, just Atlanta's tackles didn't play bad, but the interior of their line just kept getting collapsed. And yeah, Matt Ryan is not a mobile guy, so when that collapses, he's not going to be able to really step up, and that's going to force him to, like you said, be uncomfortable. So that's a big key, I think. And this offensive line, this Falcons offensive line, has been bad, and it was a big key for the Bucs defense and to get pressure. And the Bucs allowed 0 points in the second half because of it, and then that was a huge part of it.
Well, and it was pretty crucial the time that they did decide to step up and start getting after Matt Ryan, because we talked all about the run defense this season, and the Falcons had 100 yards rushing throughout the first quarter. I mean, Cordarrelle Patterson was giving us hell. Mike Davis got them their first touchdown of the game. He ended up in the end zone. They didn't really have an answer for the run defense early until, of course, the second half when they allowed 0 points, and Atlanta wasn't really looking to run the ball as much anymore.
Well, the Falcons actually ran the ball same amount of times as they did in the first half. They had 10 rushes for 99 yards in the first half. And then the second half, 10 rushes for 20 yards. So big difference there.
Yeah, well, I take back what I said, but I guess that stat line right there just shows you the level of production that Atlanta was looking at as far as the ground game went. And the way the defense was able to respond after, kind of getting knocked on their ass in that first quarter by the run game was, was pretty good to see.
Yeah. So I texted you this, and you suggested that I just be an offensive coordinator. And I was like, sure. I don't know why more teams don't do this. I understand that not all teams have the same personnel and everything. I get it, right? However, the key to beating the Bucs, if you're going to run the ball, if you're going to commit to running the football, the key to beating the Bucs is you got to spread them out. You have to be able to run outside of the tackles and to the sideline, because if you do that, you're able to stretch out the defense. And Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, then they're almost useless on those plays. They're not going to be able to get there quick enough. But when you're trying to run right up the middle, it's just there's not enough space there. So if you give yourself space, you're going to be able to do that. Atlanta in the first half, especially on that first drive, was doing that. They did the little tosses with Patterson or the Mike Davis touchdown. It was to the outside. It wasn't exactly a toss where he went 5 yards outside the box, but they're running it towards the outside. So when you do that, like I said, it's going to put more pressure on the corners and on the safeties and on the linebackers. And, of course, they didn't have Jordan Whitehead today. That's going to put more pressure on those guys and make guys like Vita Vea, Will Golston, Ndamukong Suh sort of non-factors. And that's what they did in the first drive. Now, our team's going to be able to stick with that for a full 60 minutes. Atlanta obviously couldn't, and a lot of it's because of the Bucs, offense. you need to keep passing the ball. And if the Bucs pass rush can tee off, then that's that. But I mean, they made the adjustments needed. And I think it was really just about the defensive line. Shout out to the secondary, though, because specifically on the Cam Gill sack, it was more of a coverage sack. The secondary, I thought, played well. Didn't really hear him a whole lot. Kyle Pitts, you heard his name in the first half. You don't even really remember if he played in the second half. Russell Gage, you heard him a little bit, but not a whole lot. Cordero Patterson was a non-factor in the passing game. And in the running game, they really neutralized them in the second half.
Yeah, I thought so too, man. Just, a victory that this Buccaneers team needed. I guess before we go any further, we should probably talk about some of the things that could still be cleaned up on both sides of the ball, because we mentioned that this is an Atlanta Falcons team that isn't necessarily that great. So if there are mistakes made, they're a little bit easier to recover from. But as you start to want to get into playoff form, as these games start to matter a little bit more down the stretch, obviously getting guys healthy is one thing, but executing the best that you can is the rest of, what football is. And as we look at this team and the games that they have left, the way that they've been playing, what are some things that you could nitpick from this one about, things that just have to be fixed for this team?
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to answer Emily. She's calling on Coach Evan. So she's calling Coach Evan.
Got to get the headset on, man. Someone get this guy a headset and $60 million.
I thought Carlton was a warrior out there today. He really battled, played well, and his first game back, just getting acclimated to it. Got banged up a little bit, was able to come back, and that drop pick just got on the jugs machine this week. Working on those, can't have those, of course, but to Davis, he was back and he's playing well. We're excited. We're excited to get him back.
Man, how about the commentator going in on Carlton Davis? By the way,
Jonathan Vilma did not.
Oh my God!
Real quick, before I answer the question.
Real quick, those guys were terrible in the booth.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The commentary, Jonathan Vilma kept saying, this Bucs offense, they're going to really want to run the ball. And I was like, do you think they're the Tennessee Titans?
He keeps saying, hey, we'll check for Tom to check into a run right here. And then they do the exact opposite of what he would say.
Are they like the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s? Like, what is this? Like, I mean, seriously, it's like he never watched the Bucs game before. It's like he watched last week because he knew he had the game this week and was like, oh, this is what they do.
Yeah.
And like, no.
Well, he saw that, obviously Leonard Fournette is, I guess, the pillar of this offense based off of what he had seen from the highlights that he watched in 5 minutes from last week. But he lost me when he spent like 3 or 4 plays talking about purple and pink shoes, asking the other guy if, how much he could pay him to get him in purple and pink cleats out there for the day. And then it was just awkward because they seem to forget that these guys are wearing purple and pink cleats because it's my cleats, my cause this week. And they're all charitable causes. Right. And, it's just, there were just so many awkward moments. The chemistry wasn't there. And it's blatantly obvious when you have a couple of announcers who couldn't be interested any less in the game they're supposed to be calling. So, Fox, do better.
Kenny Albert's good. I mean, Kenny Albert does a good job. But, Jonathan Vilma, I don't know what
Jonathan Bountygate Vilma says Willie Beeman.
I mean, Brady's Mahomes' daddy had mental errors inside 2 minutes, not running out of bounds. I understand that. That's nitpicking. I mean, that is, if I'm going to nitpick one thing, sure, Leonard Fournette just slide instead of running out of bounds, even though he was kind of forced out of bounds. It's not like he willingly just, had room to slide and just went out of bounds. But I mean, it wasn't perfect. Obviously, the final seconds of the first half, that can never happen ever again. I mean, no matter what, if it's a preseason game, even that can't happen. Just, if you're going to be aggressive there, I don't mind the screen on first down because my thought process is do something that's safe, which a screen normally is, but do something that's safe. And you're able to, if you complete it and get 15 yards, cool. If you complete it and it doesn't go nowhere, all right, just shut it down. They completed it, but didn't go nowhere. They should have shut it down. They shouldn't have gone right back to the screen. But if they didn't want to continue to go, you don't throw another screen. You do something else. You don't just throw another screen. So I think Arian said, poor play call and poor execution. That's exactly that. You need a better ball from Brady. That's simple. There's one guy really at fault there. It's not like there was much else. I think Leonard Fournette ran the wrong screen route. So, bad play call, bad execution. That can't happen again. Other than that, though, wasn't much else. Obviously, Ryan Suckup missed the extra point. That's 2 now in the last 4 games. Normally he's been automatic, but this year has been kind of not as automatic. He's been really good, but he hasn't been like as automatic on extra points. You obviously need them come playoff time. Not really a whole lot else. We can get into the third down thing, the third and long.
Yeah.
Look, it seems like, and the Bucs on the season actually aren't bad in this category. Like they're really not that bad.
These last 3 weeks, it feels like they are the worst in the league by a wide margin in this category.
I'll say the last 2 weeks. The Giants really didn't.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, like the last 2 weeks, it just seems like any 3rd and 10 plus, it's automatic. I mean, it is automatic. I understand the Bucs playing back, but and normally teams do, but I think the Bucs are expecting teams to basically check it down and the Bucs just go and tackle, but teams aren't doing that. They're coming after them, trying to find the soft zones, and then they're picking them apart. And on a 3rd and 14, they're getting 16 yards. On a 3rd and 13, they're getting, 19 yards. They're converting these, and that can't happen come playoff time. When you have a 3rd and 15 in the playoffs, in the NFC Championship game, you got to get off the field. You can't allow that. Real quick, I want to nitpick this because this is very strange to me. And I thought, before we get into the next topic, whatever that may be, I thought that I was going crazy. I thought I was taking crazy pills. I thought I was insane. So I believe it's the Falcons' 3rd drive of the game. And the Falcons have 7 points by now. They end up kicking a field goal on this drive, but there's a 3rd and 10. Matt Ryan steps up in the pocket. He goes to run. He pump fakes, runs, and then throws the ball. And I swear, I would bet my future kids, I would bet my house that he was way past the line of scrimmage. No flag was thrown. It was a 17-yard completion, 1st down. The Bucs would have gotten off the field. And the announcers didn't even mention it. Nobody mentioned anything. I mean, I didn't see the Bucs sideline complain. I'm like, what am I watching a different game? Go if anybody has Game Pass and can watch the full game. I doubt it was a basic play, but it mattered because it was a 3rd down conversion. If you have Game Pass and you can watch it, go to that play and tell me that he is past the line of scrimmage. He's 100% is.
I'll tell you, while we are on the topic of calls and non-calls, which we seem to be every single week here on the show, it's the return of our favorite regular segment every single week is, the best and brightest of NFL officiating once again. That one could be questionable. A couple of other plays, a little more than questionable. Willie Beeman, the moderator, brings up in the chat the roughing the passer penalty on Anthony Nelson.
I didn't have an issue with that because it was late.
What about
reason? That's the reason I didn't have an issue. The actual hit, no, but it was late.
Well, here's the one that I think you and I can agree on that definitely should have been called. It was a late hit on Mike Evans. A little later on in the game, it was the DB coming in screaming, pass is already far incomplete, and Mike still gets checked. Nothing happens. Again, not even the announcers mentioned.
I don't know where the flag was there. That was blatantly obvious, and it was very late. But like I said, that Anthony Nelson one, the actual hit, yes, that's not roughing the passer. I think the big thing was it was just late. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't intentional by the Falcons guy. You even texted back and forth. It wasn't intentional, but it happened. Just because it's not intentional doesn't mean you don't need to throw the flag. So yeah, that was a bad one. Mike Evans was clearly done running, and he just hits him. Didn't blast him completely, but he hit him. He took him to the ground. And the ball was gone. So, that definitely should have been a flag, and that would have kept their drive going after that turnover. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, the officials didn't have a bad day. It was Tony Correnti, so I was wondering if anybody's going to get hip checked. But I mean, we were looking before the game. We were looking before the game. Falcons had 3 penalties against them. I think the Bucs had 6. That's not bad. You'll take that.
Sure. And I think what's most important at the end of the day is, a win's a win. Buccaneers are 9-3 with a commanding lead over the NFC South, and they went out there, they handled business today. The Falcons have been done, dealt with, swept if you will, on the
Oh, no,
season.
hang on. I do have to give the Bucs credit.
Okay.
The Bucs had 3 and the Falcons had 6. So
that's one of
the Bucs' lowest penalty totals in a little bit now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Bucs beating Bucs today, but it certainly didn't come from costly penalties, at least, constantly throughout this game. So that is something.
It was one play. Really, it was literally like one play, like the third downs, whatever. But like the one play of Bucs beating Bucs was the interception.
Yeah.
To me, that's the one play.
Yeah. Well, I think with the way that they controlled Atlanta throughout this game, it's more than forgivable, the mistakes that were made on offense. Sure, they left some points on the field, right? They probably could have gotten some points after the turnover to start the third quarter, but it is what it is. A win is a win.
So,
you're not gonna look back on this and be pissed about the 6 points that they may or may not have left out there.
I'm just looking. The players will, but whatever. They're the ones playing.
If it's a better team, it's a much different conversation. But the fact that the defense only allowed 10 points, it's not even worth trying to bicker about something like that.
So real quick, the Bucs. I just checked the last 3 games. The Bucs had 6 penalties against the Giants, 4 against the Colts, and 3 today. So are we going to start talking about how they really cleaned it up? Or So it looks like they've done a decent job at cleaning it up now. So after it was a huge issue, recently, very recently, these last 3 weeks have been very, very, very good. And penalties is the one thing, the opponent doesn't matter to me. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty.
Right.
The quality of opponent that you're playing does not dictate the amount of penalties you're going to take. So, that's a good sign. If you're under 8 penalties, which they have been the last 3 games, I think that's a really good sign. So hopefully they can continue that, because you're going to need it next week. The Bills are coming to town, and the Bills, I still believe the Bills are probably a top 5 team in the league. I think when they can turn it on, they can beat almost anybody. So you're going to have to play a pretty clean football game next week.
Yeah, 100%. But as we move on from this week and talk about the rest of the season, I guess it's about time we get to, I don't know about the elephant in the room, because the Buccaneers did just win a football game, but some of the bigger Buccaneer news from this week, and that regards a couple of players who are facing suspensions. Wide receiver Antonio Brown, safety Mike Edwards, and free agent John Franklin III have all been suspended 3 games for violating COVID protocols. So the situation was this. The NFL Players Association represented these players during a joint NFLPA review into the recent allegations that the players misrepresented their vaccination status under the NFLPA COVID-19 protocols. The review supported those allegations that were already against Antonio Brown and found that the players had indeed violated the protocol. So long story short, way back in training camp, Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards and John Franklin had obtained fake vaccination cards. Since then, it has been updated in public knowledge now that all 3 of those players were vaccinated by the start of the season. So, it is what it is. The investigation was done by the NFL and the NFLPA. They took a look at things and they decided to slap them on the wrist with 3 games. So you're down a wide receiver for 3, you're down Mike Edwards, and then of course John Franklin ineligible for any team that he signs with. I'll be honest, with this story, I don't have a strong feeling about it one way or the other. I don't necessarily have strong feelings about it one way or the other. At the end of the day, what's most important is what's good for the team. Is this good for the team? No. But what are you going to do about it now? A lot of the reactions on both sides of the spectrum between people wanting to cut Antonio Brown and the people who are, free Antonio Brown, he did nothing wrong. It's been pretty divisive of a topic, but I guess that's what happens when Antonio Brown ends up in the NFL headlines once again. I'll stop blabbing. Evan, what is your take on this before we start to move on here?
Yeah, just like you said, it obviously hurts the team. The frustrating thing to me is that, okay, so they show up to training camp with these fake cards, and somebody lets them know that, hey, that's a criminal offense. You are going to get in serious trouble if you're found with that and you try to pull this. They say, okay, and then they actually get vaccinated.
Right.
If you got vaccinated that easily, Like, why even do the whole fake guard thing? Like,
why go through the trouble? Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, all this would have been completely avoided. Now, yes, I do believe there needs to be a middle ground between cut AB and, AB did nothing wrong. Rick Stroud's this, Rick Stroud's that. There needs to be a middle ground, right? There definitely has to be. And I think there's very few fans. There's a few of them, but there's very few that are able to find that middle ground. And social media is a cluster. So that is a pit that if you go into, you'll find anything. But I don't believe they're going to cut either player. They would have done it by now, in my opinion. Why wait until their suspensions are over?
Yeah.
Why not just, get rid of this distraction immediately? Like, why not? Okay, you three, or you two, you guys are gone. Like, cut Mike Edwards, cut Antonio Brown. Like, if you're if they're going to cut him, I feel like they would have done it already. Mike Edwards one hurts more than Antonio Brown, and I'm kind of more disappointed in Mike Edwards due to the lack of judgment and decision, because while it's not expected by Antonio Brown, he's been great, like in Tampa and his time in Tampa, as far as off the field stuff. You knew the history with Antonio Brown, right? You knew he was a veteran player that had a history of stuff like this. Mike Edwards, though, as a young player, this team counted on. And I mean, this team, he was going to be a starter today. Like, with Jordan Whitehead out, he was going to be a starter. And it's selfishness. I'm not saying he needs to be cut, but he needs to be smarter. And I mean, it's like I said, it's good that they're both vaccinated now, right? I don't care what your stance is on being vaccinated or not. It doesn't matter, right? That's not what it's about. I don't know. It's more disappointing for Edwards. Like, Antonio Brown was going to miss today's game either way. Like, he wasn't going to.
He was already set to miss the next two games. So the first 2 games of his 3-game suspension really make no difference to Tampa Bay as far as his on-field availability.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, he was already going to miss the next 2, but Mike Edwards was going to start all of them. And that's where you need a younger player to have better judgment than that. And hopefully they both have. They've both obviously been vaccinated. So hopefully this won't be an issue in the future. And, the NFL apparently has started to look into it from other teams, because, man, I can't imagine this is the only case where somebody has tried this, on any NFL team. I can't imagine this is the only case. So, but like Bruce Arians said, we're going to move on. Obviously, on this show, we're not really going to talk about the 2 players much, because what's there to talk about? There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. There's no news now. The news is already dropped. There's no more news. So, we're not going to talk about them until they're back. And if there's any news, we'll let you know. But there's not going to be. So it sounds like Bruce Arians doesn't want any questions about them. He made that very clear. And it's unfortunate, but the league, I think, did him a favor by doing 3 games. It sounded like I believe either Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter reported that the NFL was ready to do 6 to 9 games. I think then they negotiated it down to 3.
I think a huge factor for these guys was the fact that not very long after they had submitted those cards, they ended up being vaccinated. It seems like before the start of week 1. So, like, for a guy like Antonio Brown, who missed the Rams game after testing positive, I think it helps that he was already had the poke at that point. So, it's just one of those things. Far be it from me or Evan to tell anyone what to do with their personal choices, but when you are a professional athlete, sometimes those personal choices can affect your team.
I'm not saying you had to be vaccinated, just don't lie about it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, if you're unvaccinated, follow the protocols as an unvaccinated player would be. That's the issue here. It's not that they're not vaccinated. It's that they lied about being vaccinated so that they didn't have to follow protocols. That's the issue.
Right. Well, and that's, a key difference for a lot of people who bring up Aaron Rodgers, for example.
Everybody knew he was unvaccinated.
Yeah. Well, everybody but the media and the general public.
He misled. He lied to the media. He didn't lie to the league. There's a difference.
Yeah. Antonio Brown lied to Roger Goodell, and you already know that Goodell is a huge fan of AB. So
I mean, he lied to the Bucs. Mike Edwards lied to the Bucs. Like, there has to be a little bit of trust that's gone there. But I do expect both those players to be back. This is like I said, it's the last we'll talk about them until they're back. So Any questions about them, we probably won't even acknowledge. But we don't believe they'll be cut. We both are in agreement there, I believe. They're not going to be cut. They'll be back. As far as their future for next season, who knows, right? Who knows? I don't know, right? Antonio Brown's a free agent. We only know if he'll be back or he'll sign with another team. We'll see. But for this season, we both expect him to be back, not be cut. But it is unfortunate, and it's a lot of bad decision-making by them too.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and end things on a good note and look at the progress that the Buccaneers have, not only at winning their own division, as they have the possibility to clinch the NFC South as soon as next week, given some crazy circumstances, but, still very much in the chase for the 1 seed. You look back on things they could have done better throughout the season. A win versus Washington after the bye week, where everybody else in the NFC had some trouble, taking care of business that week would have gone a long way. But the Bucs still very much in it, just 1 game behind Arizona, sitting in the 3 seed right now behind Arizona and the Packers, who I believe Green Bay still yet to play their game. But
Green Bay has a bye this week.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I remember that now. I had to move some guys around in fantasy this week because of it. But yeah, the Buccaneers, as close as they can be to clinching the NFC South. Of course, the Saints have really fallen off, just been playing some terrible football in New Orleans, which you love to see. They were able to handle the Falcons today, and Cam Newton back with the Panthers leads to them parting ways with their offensive coordinator today. So safe to say,
Joe Brady isn't the issue. It's when your quarterbacks are Sam Darnold and Cam Newton, okay?
So safe to say, with 5 games left and a 4-game lead over the rest of the division, the Buccaneers could very soon put the NFC South to bed, and a successful 2021 campaign would make them the NFC South champions for the first time in, God, it's got to be over 10 years, right?
Well, the last time they won, I think, was 2007.
Yeah. It's been quite a long time since the Buccaneers were division champs, but you got to feel good.
I mean, you got to think, Rhett, they didn't make the playoffs for the first time since 2007 last year. So.
Exactly.
they couldn't have been the champs.
Yeah.
But, they'll accomplish one of their goals. One of their goals this season, they said, last year, we won the Super Bowl, didn't win the division, though. Mm-hmm. Their 2 main goals. It looks like one they'll accomplish and one might be a little bit tougher. Their 2 main goals were win the division and get the 1 seed. So looking ahead, since we're going to be doing this real quick, Cardinals, they won today. They play the Rams next Monday night. They play at Lions versus the Colts, at Cowboys versus the Seahawks. So there's a few games in there that maybe the Cardinals could lose.
I mean, the Lions, tough team.
The Lions?
Yeah, Lions got a tough team going. They're still playoff eligible, got their first win of the season today over Minnesota. You better look out for them boys in Detroit biting kneecaps.
And then as far as the Packers go, a little bit of a lighter schedule, but the Packers are ahead of the Bucs right now versus the Bears, at the Ravens, versus the Browns, versus the Vikings, and at the Lions. So a little bit of a lighter schedule there, but, I mean, there's a few games, maybe the Ravens. They have 3 divisional games there. They're always close. Maybe they slip up there. Yeah, but that's the breakdown. I saw Dante was asking, where's Tony? Tony is actually, I believe, in New York celebrating his birthday.
Oh, yeah, so Tony Baloney.
Today is his birthday.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick clap.
Let's go, Tony Baloney.
So
missing him in the live chat, but hey, man, how about his birthday celebration? You said he's up in New York. He isn't just up in New York. He's sitting courtside at the Knicks game.
Don't tell me he's a Knicks fan. Don't tell me he's a Knicks. Please don't be a Knicks fan. That would be the worst. If he's a Knicks fan, I don't want to hear another word about being a Philly sports fan. I don't want to hear another word.
Oh, man. Shout out once again to our guy, Tony Baloney. One thing I wanted to say before we wrap things up, you look ahead at the schedules for both Arizona and Green Bay. Man, wouldn't that be something for the Detroit Lions to play upset to both of those teams and help the Bucs get the 1 seed? Oh my God, wouldn't that be great if they just become a juggernaut the second half of the year? They take down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, slow down Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray came back from injury today. He had one hell of a game, 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 touchdowns through the air for him. I think the Lions can do it, man. It's a tall task, but you saw the way they took down the unstoppable Kirk Cousins today. So I trust Detroit, huh?
Yeah, real quick, just to end the show, Danny asked, why don't Evans and Brady have great connections? Something game after game I keep noticing. So in this offense, there's a lot of option routes. That tight end they have in Detroit is nasty. He's on my fantasy team. TJ Hawkinson, let's go. In this Bruce Arians offense, a lot of it is a lot of option routes, it's tough because that's where a quarterback and the wide receiver have to be on the same page. But a lot of times they aren't, and it could lead to interceptions. It could lead to incompletions. You saw a lot with Jameis Winston in 2019. There was a few that's an option route. The wide receiver goes one way, the quarterback throws it the other way. Just about communication. Now on the deep ball, that's something that needs to be fixed a little bit. I have my opinions on that deep ball that Brady supposedly missed, but I have my opinions. But
it seems I think you're in the Tony Baloney camp this week, where Tony Baloney would say something.
Whatever. I mean, Mike Evans had 99 yards. Mike Evans on my fantasy team too. So
yeah, well, maybe he would have had over 100 if he wasn't being so lazy on that rep. Something Tony Baloney would say
if he puts his hands out. Yeah. So I've done sure of it. So it's just like I said, a lot of it is the offense, and I mean Brady missed Godwin today on a route very similar. That was like an option, not necessarily the deep ball, but one of them option routes where he's expecting something to be, and it's just not. And you got to think of just how quickly in the NFL you have to make decisions. And so Brady's looking one way, you got to throw it. Like you got to throw it. The receiver's not there, he's not there. So, it's not troublesome. Their connection's fine, but you'd like to see them hit on a few of those.
Yeah. Now, as we start to wrap things up, Evan, I'm going to toss this over to you, man. Wanted to ask. It's been a while since I think we've really brought this one into the limelight here, but all is not forgotten in this segment. Do you have anything for the take bag this week? As we take a look at the Buccaneers, who are 9-3, 4-game lead in the NFC South, sitting pretty right now. Still got to keep winning if you want to get to the 1 seed, but you can't hate the spot that they're in. So following a win like today, what have you got for the take bag, my friend?
Yeah, I'll bring it back. I still have it here.
Yeah.
I still have the bag. So I don't have much. Tyler Johnson's been disappointing me. I really wish he would have, Brown's absence, with the injury and everything, and now the suspension, wish he would have just taken advantage of it, and he really hasn't.
I thought he had a good game last week as a blocker. I thought he's been blocking his ass off, but I guess that's not what he's really on the field. That's an offensive
lineman's job.
Yeah, it's not really what he's on the field for, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the quarterback dictates where it goes, and if Tyler Johnson's open, just doesn't get the ball, I get it. But you'd like to see a little bit more. I feel like he was productive last year, in spurts when he got opportunities, and I just like a little bit more. I would like a little bit more. He's my guy. I'd like to see him get in the end zone at least once this year, and hopefully, he has probably two more opportunities to do it until Antonio Brown comes back. So, hopefully he will. Other than that, not a whole lot. I mean, Cameron Brate has another touchdown. He only has 2 this year, which is weird. Seems like he has more, but he's just not really targeted much. It's been mostly Gronkowski when they're in the red zone, honestly. So, when you have a weapon like Gronkowski, guys like Cameron Brate and OJ Howard aren't going to get as many looks. So OJ Howard also didn't really appear at all today. So, other than that, though, not a whole lot. Bradley Pinion had a nice day again, I thought. Just keeps racking them up, of course.
Yeah, man. The All-Pro campaign.
After that shanked punt, right in the Indy game, in the opening of the Indy game, he's just been lights out.
Got to bounce back.
Got to
bounce back. It's all about how you
all
respond.
all the goats bounce back. I mean, that's just how it's
Tom Brady didn't win every Super Bowl.
He didn't win every, and that's on him. He's washed.
Yeah, because he's done so. 34 touchdowns on the year for TB12. Clearly.
And one more thing, and I'm gonna leave the chat in a blaze here when I say this. You can't, and I bring it up again. You can't just ignore Byron Leftwich's good play calling and then only acknowledge his bad. Okay, like people were destroying him for the last second thing, which before the half, which you should, rightfully so. But also like the drive after the turnover in the second half when they opened it. People were criticizing him for that. Oh, what is with these play calls? But then there was crickets when the Bucs were going out and dominating on the first two drives. Crickets. You can be one way or the other. Like you can't just only do one side of the spectrum there. So it's not Byron Leftwich is terrible. Well, then who was calling the plays there when they were scoring a bunch of points? Who was doing that? Was it somebody else? Or is it not him? So
no, it was only Tom Brady. I mean, don't you know that Tom Brady is our entire offense?
Oh man, that's why they've been struggling.
Yeah, get with the program.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It can't be all one guy, and like it's not. And I hate to, because I think Byron Leftwich is good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's awful. But like fans sit there and it's crickets. It's crickets when the Bucs have success. But as soon as they have any type of damaging play or a bad drive, it's right to Leftwich, right to him. And I don't get it. I really don't. So that's my 2 cents on the subject. And that was the impromptu take back.
There we go. Well, that's just going to wrap things up for us this week on the Cannon Fire Podcast, brought to you by BetOnline.AG. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's episode. Shout out to all of our people here in the live chat over on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Real quick shout out to our moderators, Willie Beeman and Ben Leeper holding it down, Jay Gutter, Danny, Edwin Hernandez. Brady is Mahomes' daddy, Dante Holmes, Richard T, Dub, and anybody else that I may have missed. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. The Buccaneers are 9-3. Dare I say it again? The first time they have been 9-3 since I believe 2008. I think
we all know how that one ended.
Yeah, right. I mean, it definitely wasn't a playoff appearance back in 2008, but it is
made a coaching change.
It is the first time in 13 years that the Buccaneers have had this good of a record, and with 5 games left, a 4-game lead on the rest of the division, you got to like their chances. But the way that I look at it right now, just keep winning, right? Just win, baby. The old Al Davis route to wrap things up. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out this week's episode. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It is free. Plenty of great Buccaneers content throughout the course of the season. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show, and of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram, approaching 30,000 followers. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later this week with the weekly mailbag show. Maybe we'll have a special guest. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I guess you just have to wait around and find out. We did have a third guy today for about 5 minutes, and he bailed on us. Man, we were supposed to have our good friend James on the show today, but clearly he's got better things to do. So thanks, James. If you guys want to go check out Mr. Bucs Nation, spam his comment section and let him know that we missed him today. But that's all right. It's all about how you recover, next man up mentality, and hopefully we were able to put out an enjoyable podcast today. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later this week. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.